Well, the only question that I think we have left about K-State's football season is this rock bottom or is that still coming? Welcome in. John Kurtzworthy here on a little abbreviated pregame before we get to Big 12 football, college football across the country at 11 a.m. But look, it's been a groggy morning for me here. I had to do some post game after K-State's loss to Arizona last night, 23-17. Congratulations to Brent Brennan and the Arizona Wildcats for a win. You can tell that meant a lot to them. What I'm about to say here in this video, I don't want to take anything away from Arizona, who, look, horrible season last year. I want them to feel the good vibes of being 3-0. Okay. My mission with this is not to run down Arizona at all. I will just tell you off the top, I think that Arizona team that played last night looks to me like a 5-win team. That doesn't mean they can't improve. They certainly can. I think K-State was so bad last night that any bowl caliber team or 7-5 team or better would have won the game by at least 3 touchdowns. K-State had 193 total yards, like less than 200 total yards, got outgained by over 200 yards. Arizona's running back, who was fantastic, Ishmael Mahdi, he had 189 yards rushing, which almost outgained K-State by himself. But then he also decided to add 32 yards receiving, which did give him more total yardage than K-State had as an entire team. It was the most anemic, insane, horrible offensive performance I've seen from K-State in a very long time. The 1-3 start is the worst since Ron Prince in 2008. Before that, you'd have to go back to Bill Snyder's first season in Manhattan when this was Futility U, literally dubbed Futility U by Sports Illustrated. It was the worst football program in the country, first to 500 losses as a program. You have to go back to that year to find the next time that K-State started 1-3. So things are very bad. Things are very bad. You know, I mean, if not, and Daniel, I see you there in the chat. Again, I don't want to demean Arizona, but if your punter just doesn't drop the ball, and if Arizona doesn't commit like 100 backbreaking penalties in the red zone, that would have been like a 3-4 touchdown win for Arizona last night. And frankly, I mean, I kind of hate to say this. I'm a K-State guy through and through, man, but part of me wishes that would have happened to really drive home the message of just how poorly this team is playing right now and how bad things have become this year for a staff that I had a lot of faith and trust in. But man, you know, all the questions that I'm getting last night from people in K-State world are just like, how could it have gotten this bad this fast? I mean, the team was 7-1 last year, and they brought back almost the entire roster. Now, DJ Giddens is a big loss, okay? There were a couple of NFL defensive backs that are also gone. But a ton of this roster, you know, Dylan Edwards, it's hurt him that he hasn't been able to play. Okay. He's a part of that, but Avery Johnson, Jace Brown, that entire tight end room, which has been very disappointing this year. They added a 5-star tight end, Lincoln Cure, into the mix, who has not yet really done anything. Yeah, there's just, there was a lot there. There's way too much meat on that bone for the team to be playing as poorly as they are right now. Technically, they're still just 0-1 in the Big 12. That was not a conference game last night. So, yes, the Big 12 championship, from a technicality standpoint, still very much within reach. But, man, if not for it, thank goodness, I guess I'll put it this way, thank goodness for the fact that UCLA was also playing last night and got beat by 25 at home by New Mexico to steal some of the spotlight of just how bad K-State has been this year. Because they're already sort of a national punchline right now, but UCLA is taking some of that space, soaking up some of that oxygen, and I commend them for that. I thank them for that. Thank you. Thank you very much to UCLA for that. A little bit of a shield for K-State. Now, I do want to also talk, you know, as a part of this quick little live stream about Houston, Colorado. I do want to make sure and give Houston plenty of props and kudos for the job that they did last night. And that's another program that should be feeling really good about where it is right now, just like Arizona. And I don't want to rain on that parade too much. But, dude, there are two things that stand out the most to me about what's going wrong with K-State right now, among many things. I mean, basically everything with this team. There's nothing that's working well. Luis Rodriguez, the kicker, has been excellent. Last night, Simon McClannon, the punter, was excellent. So shout out to those guys. Special teams played pretty well for K-State. I do appreciate them for that. But the most insane thing, guys, Avery Johnson rushed for over 100 yards against Arizona last year. He had negative 16 yards rushing last night. And I know Arizona has a different defensive coordinator. They seem, a little more organized. Arizona, I don't think that's a dominant defensive front. I don't think that's a dominant defensive front. And they're 50% of the time, at least, that K-State is going to hand the ball off or try to attempt a quarterback run. There are two defenders flying in untouched that are just in the backfield by the time the play even starts. It's just K-State is a discombobulated mess up front. That doesn't help with Avery Johnson, right? But if we're being honest with ourselves here, this staff, Avery himself, his teammates, everybody involved has taken a guy that runs 23 miles per hour, incredibly fast, has taken a guy that is a true freshman, came into a Big 12 game and rushed for 5 touchdowns in one game. And they have rendered his legs completely useless, meaningless. They are not a threat in any way, shape, or form. And that's a combination of an offensive line that gives him no time to think. Chris Kleiman really put it on the offensive line in the postgame press conference last night. That is a huge element of it, but Avery just doesn't look to run. He doesn't look to run. Noah Fafita is not known as a guy who is a mobile quarterback. He's much more of a pocket passer. And Noah Fafita looked worlds more dangerous with his legs last night than Avery Johnson has the entire season, because he tries to run. Like, he has a bit of a feel for, all right, there's some pressure, I'm just going to take off. Like, he actually is willing to attempt it. And it has to be, to me, a big chunk of this has to be coaching, that somehow it's been coached into Avery Johnson to not take off and run as much. And it's insane. It's the most valuable asset that this offense has. It's staggering that K-State rushed for under 2 yards a carry, by the way, outside of a 75-yard touchdown run by a receiver. And that's the point I was about to make. The only time they popped a big play is when Avery Johnson has to shift over and they let their wide receiver take a snap. And Jace Brown runs harder and more decisive than I've seen Avery Johnson run all year. And that turns into a touchdown. And it's like, why does it take that? Why can't Avery Johnson run like that? It's one thing to talk about the lack of power and trying to not take some hits when you are in the midst of getting a bunch of contact. That showed up with the touchdown run that he had, which I think they were very fortunate got called a touchdown. I don't think it actually was, but they upheld it after review that it was a touchdown. But there was so much space there. At 90% of quarterbacks are getting in with no question, no replay. But I'll set that aside. It's more like, okay, if you're going to be a guy that doesn't want to do that and run in between the tackles or down at the goal line or take a huge shot, that's one thing. But at least just be decisive in the open field. Make a cut and go. It feels like there's so much going on in his head. And I'm sure, everybody wants to blame it on one thing. I'm sure a part of that is coaching. I'm sure a part of that is just his willingness or lack thereof to go do it. I'm sure a part of that is going into last year thinking with this mindset, I've got to prove that I'm a pocket passer. I can get the ball downfield. I'm sure a part of it is I'm kind of seeing ghosts right now because my offensive line cannot block anybody. And when my offensive line can't block anybody, then my running backs won't block anybody. Dylan Edwards is the one guy I saw block out of the backfield last night when he was actually playing. He threw a nice block in the backfield. Dylan Edwards is much smaller than Antonio Martin, who totally olayed, just whiffed on a guy coming straight through to blow Avery Johnson up early in the game. And I'm sure he's just like, dude, what do you expect me to do, man? What do you expect me to do? I have no opportunity to do anything. At one point they finally ran a design kind of quarterback. Again, not an offensive coordinator. I was going to say like a quarterback power sort of thing. It was more like a counter where he had a couple of blockers leading the way, but they just whiff. Want to say that was a tight end, completely whiffs, and there's two guys to shove Avery Johnson back for like a 6-yard loss. That was on a key possession late in the game. They just have no chance. They have no chance. And then I genuinely think Avery Johnson's deep ball and like just his ability to throw the ball has become better this year. I think it's legitimately better. I mean, the one thing that this offense has been able to do sort of is throw the ball downfield. That has gotten better. But what has not gotten better is the receiving core, which I think they get open more, but they drop the ball all the time. We are at 3 straight games now where Jerron Tibbs, who was hyped up this offseason as a huge transfer in the receiving core, has dropped a pass on a crucial drive that would have been a huge play. And they overcame it once against North Dakota, but they were not able to overcome it against Army or Arizona. You just can't have that. You know, JB Bradley has actually been pretty good and was hurt and didn't play last night. But in the Iowa State game, he dropped a key 4th and 8 when Avery Johnson made a hell of a play scrambling outside the pocket. So there's that too. He's like, hey, I've got no protection. When I do get it out of my hands to the receivers, they're dropping it. And then also, I think, and RG3 was pointing this out astutely on the broadcast multiple times last night, but he still is like kind of a one-read guy. He's a one-read guy. He locks on to one target and a lot of times does not have the ability to go through his reads. And the frustrating part about that to me is if you're going to be a one-read guy, be a one-read and then tuck it and run guy. Okay? Because that is a much more effective weapon than what he actually is right now. If it's, oh, my first read isn't there, shoot, I need to just take off and run. That would be much more effective than what it is right now, which is like one read. I got to just kind of panic and throw it in there. And because of that, I mean, you can just blitz this K-State team as much as you want. And right now they've got no answer for it. There's no check into something better. There's no, hey, let me figure out where my hot guy is going to be. Get it out to him in time. It's much more just like panic. You're going to overwhelm the offensive line. Avery Johnson is already seeing ghosts right now, and he's going to panic and just throw it to the first read, try and force it in there. Or, you know, we kind of saw the Iowa State from last year redo where he runs around 35 yards backwards, and in that case last year took a safety. In this case, barely was able to get the ball away. It's just systemic failure. I mean, it's just systemic failure from the top down. I mean, I haven't talked about Matt Wells either as the offensive coordinator, and he's taking a lot of crap from everybody. When you go look at K-State Twitter right now, he's taking a ton of crap. I don't want to pile on him. I don't want to be a guy to be just mean and cruel with it. But I will just say, Texas Tech fans who have lived in K-State fans' mentions about this ever since Wells came on staff last year, I mean, it certainly appears that you're right. It certainly appears that you're right. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what they're trying to do. I am going to bang my head against the wall if I see one more 3-yard out to a receiver or one more 3rd and 4th and short dump off to a tight end, which has been tried about 100 times this year unsuccessfully every time, and they did it again last night. His hands are tied behind his back to some degree. I understand that. I will grant that. When your offensive line can't protect and your receivers are dropping passes and your best running back is hurt and the rest of the running back room is insanely average at best, I get he doesn't have a lot of options, but I don't know what they're doing, man. The little 4 and 5 yard outs with receivers drive me crazy. I get that I'm sure it's supposed to be sort of a replacement for the running game, but that's one area where I don't think Avery Johnson's that accurate. And the receivers don't run crisp routes or they don't run them to the sticks. You know, there was one last night on a 3rd down. It was a 3rd or 4th down. Maybe that was a 4th down where it's like 4th and 6. And they get Jace Brown over to try and run something to the marker. And he's like half a yard short and Avery throws it low. So he can't catch it anyway. And had he caught it, he was leaning away from the sticks. So it was not going to be a first down. Those have not worked all year. Like they don't work. They don't work. You got to do something different. And I guess I do at least appreciate that last night Chris Kleiman said, we got to go back to the drawing board and just do something different. I mean, K-State has a bye week, so good time to do that. yeah, you got to try something completely different because whatever this is, it's not working. None of it is working. The defense for K-State, I can at least appreciate a little bit last night. They only gave up 6 points in the second half. Again, I think a lot of that is Arizona slop, but they played somewhat inspired. There was some emotion being shown. They did finally create a turnover and get an interception, although they still have not intercepted an actual quarterback this year. It came on a trick play. But they gave the offense ample opportunity to really flip that game. The offense just was not willing to take it. I mean, Arizona missing a field goal gave them an opportunity. K-State not willing to walk through that door. Like it just, there are so many problems, man. And I mean, it's not getting solved this year. Maybe they can be more respectable than this. It's not getting solved to the point that anyone's going to be happy with it this year. And I don't know. Way too early. I'm not going to speculate a ton about this, but it certainly is hard to see this core group sticking around beyond this year the way that all of this has gone. Who knows about Dylan Edwards' health, by the way, if he was that close to getting hurt again. I don't know that they should have put him out there last night. And, he made it about a quarter or so, right? He gets 4 carries and then he's out. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't know what the plan is. They got to come up with something different. And I fear for what this means long-term. And, I feel for Chris Kleiman. He's done a lot of good at the school. I am as frustrated and angry as anybody, but I feel for him. I mean, they're cutting to him on the sideline. Like, I don't know, man. The guy looks stressed and exasperated and exhausted. Just doesn't look right to me. And so I hope he's okay. I hope he's okay. I hope they get some rest and get things figured out, man. I don't know because it looks bad. And it looks like this season is going to get very, very, very bad. I mean, you look down the schedule. I don't know what game you're picking out that they're winning right now. UCF at home in 2 weeks might be the best bet the rest of the way. They do play a game in Stillwater in November. So there's that. Yeah. It's going to be a long year. I had a K-State fan at our 3-mob post game last night talking about, they'll beat UCF and KU. I'm like, my friend, give you the same speech that I gave last night on 3-mob pregame. Please, this is my message to you. You have until October 25th. It's like 6 weeks. Make sure that your affairs are in order before that game in Lawrence on October 25th. Make sure that you've notified next of kin. Make sure that you have a will. If you need to hire somebody to help you with that, do it. Whatever you need to get yourself mentally and physically ready. If you need to go find 45 minutes at a time for $140 a session, make sure you do it. Find professional help. Get yourself ready because 16 years of frustration is going to come out in one night there. And even for Lance Leipold, 4 years of frustration, especially the last 3 and the last 2 of being that close and not getting the job done, it will not be pretty. There will be no mercy, and it's not going to be fun. So start preparing yourself. Start preparing yourself now. This is your advance warning to make sure that your affairs are all in order. So that's what I got. Look, I'll say what I said about Arizona at the beginning, but I guess expand a little bit more right now. That I don't think, I'll be honest, guys, I don't think right now Arizona is a very good team, but it is a little bit better than last year. It looked like a 5-win team to me that was playing out there. I think K-State is that bad right now. And you can say you're too close to the situation, whatever. I don't know, man. If Arizona just doesn't drop a punt, doesn't pick up, what were the penalties? Arizona had 7 for 56. And it was like every time Arizona gets in the red zone and they're about to like really drive a stake through the heart of K-State, they're picking up a holding penalty. Without some of that, it should have been like I know someone who talked to RG3 at halftime of the game and said, like, does this look like a K-State team that's just not all the way there? And RG3 said, yeah, it'd be a 30-point game right now with a team that was good out there. Like that's kind of my thought too. That probably should have been like a 4-touchdown Arizona win. Now, having said that, you can build on this. K-State is a team that I struggle to see what the path is to build on it for the rest of the year and get better. Arizona, you can see more of a path. Punter, don't drop the ball. Clean up what's going on the offensive line a little bit, if that is possible. And the defense is clearly, it is taken a step from last season. Noah Fafita, I think, looks a little bit more comfortable from where he was at last season. Like, you can see where those things would start to build over the course of the year, and maybe they become a better team by the end of the season. Is there a path to like 7-5 for Arizona this year? Yes, I could see that. That would not shock me. But I know it's, if you were somebody that thought K-State had a chance to win the league at the beginning of the year, it's easy to like look at the logo on the helmet and get super fired up last night, like Brent Brennan was. And again, good for him. I'm happy for him. That's a guy you can tell has been under a lot of stress himself and was letting it out after that win. But don't get the logo on the helmet confused for what K-State actually is now, I guess would be my point. It's going to be a tough game at Iowa State. Can definitely beat Oklahoma State. I'll be honest, I don't see Arizona hanging with BYU right now. Houston looks pretty good. You can beat Colorado. That'd be a 5th win. I don't think you're beating Kansas. At Cincinnati, maybe. Baylor and Arizona State, I don't think you're winning those games. To me, looking at it right now, Arizona could be a 6 or a 7 win team. The question here, what if Arizona beats Iowa State? Then that would change my entire outlook. But I don't think you're going to Ames and winning. I mean, again, no offense to Arizona, but Iowa State minus 14.5 probably in that game. If you're asking my internal computer, that's what I would say. Charlie, just listen to your post game. Feel bad for y'all, man. Well, thank you, Charlie. I'm not here like asking for sympathy. I appreciate the sentiment. I genuinely do. I'm not here to ask for sympathy. K-State has had some really nice success under Chris Kleiman. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there in the world of YouTube and social media and all that. K-State fans have certainly run their mouths when things have been going well. You have to eat it sometimes. You got to live with it. It's been sort of a steady downhill slide since a couple of seasons ago with the Elite Eight run in the Big 12 championship in football, right? Sometimes the highs are high. Sometimes the lows are low. Unfortunately, with the existential threat stuff always going on in college athletics, it's, it can feel heavier when things aren't going well, but you just got to deal with it. So I would not ask for a bunch of sympathy. And I know that most of you don't have that. Which is fine. Let me say a couple things real quick about Houston, okay, before we get into the games and before everything starts at 11 a.m. here. Houston, I do think it is fair, and I'm sure an Arizona fan would turn around and say, well, John, if you're going to question what Arizona actually is after winning that game last night, shouldn't you be questioning Houston and what Houston actually is after that game last night? And my impression from watching it as closely as I could, while also obviously watching the K-State game, was that it was a little bit similar in that I think like a legitimately like very good team would have won that game by like 30 last night instead of 16. Felt like Houston was kind of trending that way, stubbed their toe a little bit and was having to settle for field goals early in the game. Let Colorado back into it with Ryan Staub, who, bless his heart, I don't think he's a very good quarterback. Let him make a couple of plays to get back in it. But we're not asking Houston. I'm not asking Houston to be like a 9 or a 10 win team. I think you're hoping and asking Houston to be a 7 or 8 win team this year. And does a 7 or 8 win team win that game by, first of all, they won by 16 instead of 3. Does Houston look like a 7 or 8 win team to me? Yes. Houston does to me look like a 7 or 8 win team right now. Seeing Connor Wegman get going, develop some confidence, I think is very good. This is what he needs. Like, this is another difference. Like, Noah Fafita, I think he's a good quarterback. I really like Noah Fafita a lot. But Connor Wegman is a guy, I think, with like more upside at this stage in his career. I mean, he does have the background, the pedigree of being a 5-star quarterback, and was just sort of mentally beaten down, I think, by everything that happened at Texas A&M. Looks like a guy who's having fun now. He put up over 300 total yards and 2 touchdowns last night against Colorado. Looks like he's having fun and just has confidence back. And like, that is what Connor Wegman needs to really unlock a higher ceiling for himself and a higher ceiling for this Houston team as a whole. So to me, that's where I look at this and I say, all right, I can see this. And as far as the defense with Arizona, like Danny Gonzalez clearly has done a good job. They have become better. But I've got a little bit more trust in what I have seen over the years from just Willie Fritz teams in general with the defense that they're going to play consistently to feel like, well, I think that will be there all year, that they'll be a pretty good defense. And now they've got an emerging quarterback who's starting to become more and more confident. Like I see more of a path to like 8 wins for Houston just from what they are as a team than I think I do with Arizona right now. Now I say that not looking at the schedule. I mean, Houston's got at Oregon State. You should win that. I mean, it is losable, but you should win that. Texas Tech at home will be tough. At Oklahoma State, you can definitely be, I mean, look, Arizona, Houston would be an interesting game right now. It's going to be played at Houston. At Arizona State, I think that'll be tough. You can definitely beat West Virginia at home. You can definitely win at UCF. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 the rest of the year that I've said Houston could definitely win. I see more of a path to like an 8-win season for Houston, to be honest, than I do for Arizona right now. But not raining on anybody's parade. Arizona, celebrate it, have fun. I'm experiencing the type of season right now that it turned into last year for Arizona. So to be 3-0, celebrate it. Hopefully you shove it in my face at some point with this team being better. Noah Fifita, I really like him. I like his story. I like his demeanor. I loved talking to him at Big 12 Media Days this past year. I'm rooting for the guy. It's just hard for me to not see how completely flawed K-State is at this point. And Houston, you guys know, I mean, some of the Houston fans in my replies trying to tell me that Willie Fritz is from Shawnee Mission, Kansas. You guys who watch my YouTube show probably get annoyed with me talking as often as I do about the fact that Willie Fritz is a Kansas City guy and has coached at a number of places relatively close from a regionality standpoint to Kansas City. I am well aware. And he went to high school like literally blocks from where I'm sitting right now. I am well aware of my guy, Willie Fritz, and have had some nice conversations with him about that on the YouTube channel that you guys could go check out as well. Another guy that I am definitely rooting for. So congrats there. Guess we didn't really talk Colorado at all. They do look kind of like a mess. And like, I don't know, man. I know Coach Prime was sort of at a loss for words after the game and said Ryan Staub did not have a good game. He did not. They're going to have to figure something else out at quarterback. They need one of those other 2 guys to emerge and step up. I'm not entirely sure the dynamics of what's going on there, but they got to be better. Michael, appreciate you, man. Thank you for being here. Michael says, I hate seeing Matt Wells screw up Avery's potential. Avery is one of my favorite non-BYU players, and I feel so bad. Sorry the Cats are struggling. Well, I appreciate it, Michael. I do think Matt Wells is playing a large role in this. I don't think it's just his fault. I think it's been systemic failure. I do think, as much as K-State fans were frustrated last year with Connor Riley as the offensive coordinator, who was also the offensive line coach, I think they sorely miss him right now. One coach who was also not afraid to really chew somebody's ass on the staff. I don't really think they have that at this point. So, yeah, I wouldn't put the blame squarely on him, but he definitely shoulders a solid amount of it. So, yeah, appreciate it, Michael. Appreciate it, my friend. Tay, KSU's second half defense wasted on an awful offensive performance. Avery needs to use his legs again. Couldn't agree more. Defense at least was respectable for sure in the second half. And after I felt like everybody on the team sleptwalked through the first half, there wasn't much emotion other than the long snapper, Mason Olgan, who got down there and recovered the muffed punt. Didn't see much emotion from anybody at all. But in the second half, the defense was showing some of that. I was happy, relatively speaking, with what we saw from the defense in the second half. But yeah, the offense just can't do anything. Literally could not do anything when Arizona kind of tried to hand it over on a silver platter there for a minute. So Tay, I appreciate you. Thank you for being here. There will be better days at some point. I'm not sure when that's going to be, but there will be better days at some point. Okay. Games are about to start, guys, so I'm going to hop off here. But thank you all for being here. Like the channel, subscribe to the channel. I should have said that beforehand. Please do. Really helps. Like and subscribe. I know a bunch of you watching right now are not subscribed. I see it in the numbers. That helps me a lot. Subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter at ofbnews.com. That's ofbnews.com to get subscribed there and enjoy the day of Big 12 football and college football across the nation. I will talk to you all very soon. Take care.